Today I'm actually going to share a story of my own, and that is why I left Arbonne. So I initially first got into Arbonne because I messaged a friend of a friend really about a job opportunity at a place where she had worked. Hey, what's it like there? Are the managers okay, etc., etc., that junk. And instead of just sitting there and answering my question, she's like, oh, well, you should join Arbonne because I'm about to get to quit my full-time banking job and just sell products from my home and empower women. And I'm like, that's great. I had heard about pyramid schemes, MLM schemes, whatever you want to call them, they're the same thing, and before, and it had that vibe to it, but I had never actually heard of Arbonne before. I had heard of, It Works and Herbalife and those kinds, but I surprisingly never heard of Arbonne before. So I went ahead and listened to her. And obviously it sounded too good to be true. I'm aware of that part of it. But I was like, you know what? If I could just make $500 a month and be able to cut some hours at work, that sounds great to me. I was working long hours, which I'll get into all of that later on. But I was working long hours at a difficult, taxing job, and I had full-time school, a toddler, a 2-year-old, and a fiance that I needed to spend time with, and I just wasn't able to do that. So I was kind of roped into it that way, and that is a big problem within MLMs, is targeting women. Especially women make up the majority of those in MLMs, but they will target women who either have small children or are going to college or don't have a lot of friends, which I was all three. I was too busy for friends. I was too busy to go out and enjoy people's company. I was all about school and work and my family, and just having like an online group of women that I could talk to and have support from was really important to me at the time, which obviously is still important to me, but just in the point that I was in life, that was something that I was really searching for, and they can pick up on that, and they do pick up on that quite a bit. That's a big problem. And that, along with, at the time, my mental health was not the best, and I will go into that too briefly, and it's actually one of the biggest factors at play in my story, so let's get into it. And for those of you who don't know, Arbonne is a multi-level marketing company, and many would call it a pyramid scheme. I would want to agree with that. A multi-level marketing company is basically a pyramid scheme that has fallen through the legal cracks. A lot of people will say, oh, well, pyramid schemes are just, you don't have product, or all of your money just comes from direct recruits. That is actually still pretty similar to what an MLM is. Most of your money is not going to come from direct sales. It's going to come from recruiting people and making money off of them. You may not, some of them you do, some of them you don't. Arbonne, you don't get like a direct payment for recruiting someone, but you make money off of everything they sell. So the more people you get on your team, the more money you're going to make. They even blatantly told me, you're not going to make money unless you recruit, and you recruit as many as you can. But that's the gist of it. Most MLMs, they're all the same. There's really no significant difference between the workings of each one. One may sell shampoo, one may sell essential oils, one may sell, like Arbonne sells everything at this point, which jack of all, master of none is pretty accurate in this case. So at the time of her introducing Arbonne to me and telling me about the powerful women and the money to be made and all these girls just having each other's backs, I was not in a good place. At the time, I worked as a first responder. I was an EMT. I would work long hours on an ambulance out of a station. So once you work out of a station, you don't stop working. I would work up to 60 hours in a row. might come home to sleep for, 6 hours and go back. I was employed part-time, technically, so I did not have benefits and I did not have great pay, and that is pretty much the norm in the field of EMS. Where I live, you only make about $10 and $12 an hour, even though you are, licensed, you've gone to school, you've passed all the tests. I mean, you still don't make any money doing it. And unfortunately, since I was part-time, I did not get overtime, even though there were many times where I would work, 40 to 60 hours in a week, but the next week they would cut me to 20 to keep me under part-time and keep me not having benefits. And I didn't appreciate that. I mean, who would? So I was looking to cut back hours there and looking at doing something that might profit me better and give me some more time with family, because obviously working 60 hours a week, some weeks, I wouldn't have any time for anything other than that, because I was also going to school full-time. And so those all three were targeted factors in my life that they definitely picked apart and kind of almost used against me and guilted me into, oh, well, don't you want to spend time with your son because you're never home, that kind of thing. That was really a sore spot already, and rather than being offended, I just kind of felt worse about it. And the reason why I felt worse about it is because I was already not in a good space with my mental health. And the reason for that is because working in the job I was working, along with some things that I had gone through in my life already at that point, kind of came to head at that point, and I developed incredibly severe anxiety, PTSD. I was just not in a good place whatsoever. I didn't sleep. I couldn't hardly drive to work without having a panic attack. I would have panic attacks driving home and have to stop on the side of the road. I mean, it was terrible. And because of the fact that I was working a lot and I was going to school full time, that was in my senior year, I did not have a very great friend support system. I have a couple of great friends, but the fact of the matter is they're in school too. They've got their own lives, and I can't expect them to basically take care of me. That is out of the question. I love them. They're wonderful people, don't get me wrong by any means, but the fact of the matter is they have their lives and I had mine, and while they were great friends, that was not enough for me. So the idea of having several women close to me that I could speak to online or while I was at the station, that was a great idea for me. And yeah, that didn't happen at all. As soon as I joined, I only spent about $250 to get product, some basic things, a free gift, and a starter pack. But anyway, all that training, all the friendship and the support kind of just went down the toilet right off the bat. The training was basically, listen to these videos, or watch these videos, listen to these podcasts, read these books that we read. Like, that's not helping me. Like, I remember once going to them and be like, hey, my Instagram, I don't have a following on Instagram. I would like some ideas on how to kind of get that going. And they were like, oh, well, just like make sure your pictures like match. I was like, I would agree. I do photography on the side. I kind of got the photo part down. How do I like grow an Instagram? And they were like, oh, like just post like at least a couple times a week. I'm like, okay. That was pretty much the amount of training that you got. Besides these videos, they were very indoctrinating. They were very gimmicky. They had people like Rachel Hollis, cream of the crop kind of training. They would have you read, everyone was supposed to read, the same books, the same self-help books. And I don't generally like a lot of self-help books. I have 2 degrees in psychology, and obviously my EMT degree, which isn't incredibly applicable, but with my life experience, with my education, I find some issue with a lot of the self-help books that are out there, and a lot of the ones that they suggested were not great. They were very just opinion-based kind of material, which is not always a bad thing, but it's definitely not something you want to base a lot of your actions and personality traits and stuff off of. Y'all get what I'm saying? Like, if everyone is reading the same self-help books, the same improvement books, everyone is trying to behave the same way with the same ideas, that is like the epitome of a cult, and that is exactly what they wanted. And they wanted you to continue to read these books all the time. They would hound you for that. They would hound you to watch all the same videos. They would hound you to get on all the Zoom calls, Monday night Zoom calls, I think it was, of these chats. I mean, he'd get hundreds of messages a day sometimes, all from the same group of people. And if you did not get involved with this, they would shun you. Right off the bat, like the first week or two, I tried to get in on the Zoom calls and stuff, and I was like, right away was like, I can't do that. They're like, well, you don't have an hour a day to put time into your biz. I was like, no, I don't. You told me that this was supposed to be something I can do on my own time, that I could be successful in without experience, and, be able to do in the way, it was my business. I'd be able to do it in the way that I saw the best way for me. And we all know that's not the case. Like, if you know anything about MLMs, and especially ones like Arbonne and Beachbody and like Monat, you don't run your business. You are in a cult, and that's all there is to it. And people get really offended about that part of it. I just think it's really important to call it like it is. But anyhow, as soon as I kind of pulled back, like I said, I was working long hours. I was going to school full-time, over full-time, and trying to keep up my grades, and me trying to get on multiple Zoom calls a week and keep up with all those messages and read all those books. Like, I'm a senior and getting a liberal arts degree. Like, I do a lot of reading already. I don't need to add anything else in. Thank you though. But anyway, as soon as I did that, they pull back. They no longer include me in anything. They no longer want to video chat with me. They no longer want to text me. And I was like, you know what? If I have to participate in everything that you want me to do to be able to be your friend and be included in your group, then that's obviously not a group that I want to be in. But I still wanted to kind of try the Arbonne thing, but it wasn't long before I realized that I couldn't even do that, because as we were going through the holidays of 2019, so I joined Arbonne the end of October 2019. I ended up quitting my job in EMS and working hospital-based for a while, which I was working just as many hours, if not more. Working in a hospital, I worked in cancer, oncology. I worked in palliative care, specialized in palliative care as well as cancer. So kind of really difficult things. I didn't realize some of the stuff that I would have to do in that job because I came from a pre-hospital background. I didn't really have as much education in hospital-based, and at that time I was very unprepared for a lot of stuff that I had to do in the hospital, which was incredibly stressful because everyone else who worked there was trained as to work in a hospital, not an ambulance driving down the street. Incredibly different training across the board. Nothing is the same really. So that was very different and difficult for me to get into. Working in palliative care, you would have to do a lot of cleaning and prepping people after they had passed, and with what I had already been dealing with in the past, that actually caused a lot more pain and trauma than I had already felt before. So I went from the stress to just piling on more trauma. When January came around, I don't think I had ever been in a worse place than I was at that time. And they came for me because I refused to do anything with Arbonne anymore. I didn't get on the Zoom calls, I didn't post, I didn't message, I didn't do anything. I called into work a lot. Because like I said, I couldn't sleep. I was working 13-hour shifts. I do have health conditions that make it very difficult for me to make it through a lot of physical activity. I am immunocompromised. I was getting sick a lot working in the hospital as compared to working on an ambulance, because I was having a lot more patient interaction than I was before. And there's a lot more people confined into the same, spaces. And so I was getting sick constantly. I ended up having to quit my job and stay home and finish school because I just could not manage everything. I was failing all my classes when I had been an honor student, making Dean's List multiple times in a row, and all of a sudden I'm failing all my classes. I was calling into work, like I said, all the time. I could not handle anything. I just wanted to, and my fiance was actually the one who suggested this, stay home, we've got it, we can pay the bills, don't worry about it. And so I decided to stay home, and I quit doing Arbonne, I quit working, and I just focused on my son, school, and healing my mind. My upline, who signed me up, I specifically told her, I was like, hey, my mental health is not great, and I am not going to have the ability to focus on Arbonne anymore, at least for a while, because I can't pour from an empty cup. I am trying to fill my cup up every single day so that I can give my son what he needs, my school what they want, and still have something left over for me. I don't have that hour a day that you want me to give you. I don't have it. I'm focusing on my relationships at home. The most important things to me, are my son and my fiance, and that's what I want to focus on. And you know what they told me? They told me to read their self-help books and to fix my mindset, because basically I just have a bad attitude and I need to get over it. And it's my fault that I'm in the headspace that I'm in. And let me tell you that if I did not have somebody there like I did have my fiance, that would have crushed me. Every bit of improvement I had made at that point would have been null and void, honestly, because I was in too delicate of a mind space to be able to handle a comment like that, truly. And I am very happy that I had the people in my life that I did, because if that truly is all I had, like a lot of like single moms and like college students away from home and that they do target, don't have that. And I don't know what goes through somebody's mind to say something like that to someone who just told them that they literally had to quit their job because they couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And that's infuriating to me, that would ever come out of somebody's mouth. And it's disgusting and it's vile and it is an embarrassment to their company and everything that they stand for. And it just showed me how I'm getting angry all over again. I'm doing great these days, but oh my gosh, at that time, that crushed me, to be blamed for my own mental illness and my own struggles that came from a combination of a lot of experiences and traumas. And the fact that they're so indoctrinated into their own belief system and their own cult, that they think that the only way to help those kinds of problems is by delving further into their cult, just shows how much of a cult it is. And it's really sad and disappointing to see behavior like that. Anyway, moving back to my story. At the time, I actually just let it roll off my back. I could not fathom indulging a comment like that at the time. I just didn't have the strength for it. But I definitely cut off a lot of contact with them. I didn't block them or anything like that. kind of pulled back even further. I wouldn't even have a friendly conversation with them. I wouldn't talk to them. I just basically went on with my life. I brought my grades up. I did end up acing basically all my classes, which is really amazing. Biggest accomplishment for sure, but that's not important. The important part is that I was able to kind of distance myself from them and find support elsewhere, which is ultimately what we should all do. But I was still friends with them on Facebook, and I was still, no one ever really knew I was in Arbonne. I never really posted about it on like my Facebook. My Facebook is basically just for family pictures and stuff. I didn't really use it for anything else. So no one really knew that, but I still did have my upline on my Facebook. And once the beer virus started going around, they went off. It was everything that they had done up to that point. I had pretty much gotten over, but seeing them talking about the immune boosters, oh, you don't have a job now, oh, we'll spend your stimulus check on us and get in the business and start your biz, and you'll never have to go back to work, and just making the, first of all, illegal income claims, and also preying on people who have lost everything. That was a final straw for me. And I remember I made like a Facebook post saying, if you're in network marketing and you're using the beer virus against people and trying to get them to join your business because of that, then you're absolutely terrible. And I had them commenting on my posts about that, and one of them actually messaged me, texted me personally, and was like, that makes our company look so bad, and you should take it down. You should take it to the private chat, and etc. etc. And I finally went off on her, not rudely necessarily. I try my best not to go that route, because when you lash out at people, the first thing they're going to do is shut down, especially when they are so far into situations like a lot of the Huns are in. They are in very manipulative relationships that like suppress their own personality and their own belief systems. And if you lash out and come with claws out, you are going to make them shut down, and they will not hear anything you say. So I was definitely very blunt with what I felt about the situation and what they were doing, without insulting to their core. Because like I said, my education is in clinical based psychology, and I do try to apply that to my life the best I can. I am not a psychologist. No, I am not. And I don't ever plan to be, but I definitely try to be more understanding because of, my experience. But anyhow, I let her know, I was like, I think it's actually really disgusting to try to rope people in by using their losses and their struggles, and the fact that only 1% of people are going to be making any kind of income or even just breaking even, and 99% of people, after spending their money for their products and such, or taxes, or shoot, they might not even be doing that and they're still losing money. And that's just really, really not a great situation for people to be getting into when they're already in a difficult situation, and trying to make them do that is just so sad and so immoral, and I really think you should stop. And she did not appreciate that at all, of course. I won't be sharing any of the text messages, just because I do know her. She is in my personal life. My fiance is friends with her fiance, and I don't want to hurt them either by sharing conversations that could make anybody look bad, or could come back on her, because she is their only income right now, and I just don't want to cause a problem. And I actually had another upline come after me on my post and basically call me a liar and a negative person, because we all know that the Huns directly go to negativity when they're called out on their own BS, and go straight to trying to attack your character and attack your own intentions, rather than acknowledge maybe where their shortfallings are. So that was the first thing that they did, was just go after like my integrity and my truthfulness, and just call me a negative person. Well, I just kind of had like my own personality that was being attacked, and my own personal experiences invalidated. Of course, because we see it all the time. You know, the people in Monate say, oh, well, joking over people losing their hair like it doesn't happen. Like, it does. And saying that it doesn't is just an absolute lie. And basically just trying to paint me as the bad guy for even saying anything about it, even though nothing I said was really very negative. Just basically shared a couple FTC studies. I shared their own income disclosure statement, and on. But they said, oh, well, that income disclosure statement looks amazing to me. I just love it so much, with like 5 exclamation points, because who doesn't want to make an extra $18,000 a year from their phone? Like, they, even when the facts were out in front of them, they still did not take into account the reality of the situation. This upline had the absolute goal, the nerve, to go on that post and say that I am a failure because I have a lack of work ethic. And that was probably the most insulting thing beyond everything else that they could have said to me, because my work ethic is probably my biggest strong suit personally. I would say my greatest personality trait, in my opinion. And to say publicly that I was a failure because I did not have one was definitely where I drew the line, for sure. And I said, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way. The facts are out in front of you. It's your choice on whether or not to believe them. But in the end, it's sad how you're a predator to women who were like in my situation and other situations that are similar. Or maybe that they don't have any struggles, but that you just took their money, because yes, you may be making $18,000 a year extra through Arbonne, but you're making it on the backs of women. But anyway, they just basically cut me out of everything as soon as I kind of publicly started coming against what they were saying, and that was it. And that's when I realized that if one little disagreement can cause such an absolute disarray of, if that little disagreement can cause so many issues within like a circle of friends, to the point where they are blocking you, that they're deleting you from all the group chats, that they will block you on Instagram and everything. You having a good time?
Yeah, I'm here, Mama.
And anyway, if that is how they roll, then I want nothing to do with it. And that's when I knew I was going to be anti-MLM forever. But I will say that this channel is not just solely anti-MLM. It is pretty much any bad business practices, any interesting facts that you're gonna want to know about businesses before you get involved with them. I'll have some lifestyle stuff on here too, just because I do some crazy stuff, and that's pretty much it. I'm still technically involved in all of my Arbonne like mass chats, like on Boxer and such, so We'll see how long that lasts now that this video's up, but I have some interesting information from that I'm probably going to make a video about, some recordings and stuff that I'll share. But beyond that, that's pretty much it. This is basically just a commentary about my own experience. From here on out, they're going to be a lot more structured and informational. Just figured what better way to start my own channel rather than, you know, tell you why I'm here. And that is why I'm here, because I think it's really important to advocate for women and advocate for men in these kinds of situations and show you what really goes on before you get involved in these kinds of businesses and potentially lose money, lose friendships. I've even heard of people losing their long-term relationships, and none of that is anything I want anyone to have to experience. And I really hope that I can, in a very unbiased way, for the most part, get that information out there, you know, and come at it with, you know, understanding and compassion as much as possible. I'm not one of those people who believes that people in MLMs or like bad businesses are innocent. I don't think that. I am never going to excuse their behavior just because they are so-called manipulated. I don't think that's always the case, but I do think it's important to hold people accountable, because if you don't have any accountability, are you really going to ever change? That's the question. But yeah, consider subscribing, leave me a like, a comment, let me know if you have any stories. If you have anything you want me to share, you just send me an email or DM me on Instagram. I'll be over there every day, and I try to get back to everybody who messages me on Instagram. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, you're awesome. But bye. We will block you on Instagram and everything. You having a good time?
Yeah.